Hi, I'm Harry Forbes from ARC Advisory Group. I'm here with Jim Newman from Areva. Areva is a $12 billion French supplier of nuclear equipment and fuel and reprocessing services. Jim, thank you for coming to the forum.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you here.
Thank you for having me.
Jim, you're talking about your engineering information management at the forum. Can you kind of tell me what Areva's goals are for engineering information management?
It's very simple, really. The target for us is to take a look at how we can improve the processes for the entire life cycle of a nuclear power plant. So nuclear power plants have a 10 or 11 year construction design life. Then we have between 60 and 100 years of operation. So part of the target for our asset lifecycle management and our engineering management is to allow us to capitalize and optimize those processes, reducing cost, reducing waste, and trying to make it cheaper for us to operate the plants.
One thing you mentioned when I met you was that you were trying to drive a significant portion of cost out of the design and build phase.
Sure.
So how do you think you'll be able to do that? That's
So there are several ways we're going to try to do that. You're right, it's a huge challenge in our industry. The first one is around looking at how we can optimize the supply chain management, how we can take the information we get from the different vendors, the different suppliers, the different partners, capitalize that, make it into neutral formats, not proprietary formats, so we can use it across the entire life cycle of the plant. So the exchange of information is a critical one. Estimates show we can save billions of dollars over the course of a plant's life by doing that. But not only that, we have to also look at how we can take and optimize the exchange of work processes. So we have a real chance to take and look at how we do constructability reviews in the design, how we exchange with the owner operations and maintenance teams for how they can take the information we deliver and capitalize on that to make the operations better. So the entire effort is about how we utilize exchange, how we utilize better design practices, how we utilize better constructability reviews to enable us to really capitalize for the end product, the customer's operations and maintenance, how we can really benefit for them to reduce their overall life cycle cost.
Are there particular barriers that you see to doing that? That's a challenge in a lot of industries. Obviously, you have some very tall hurdles there. What do you see as particular barriers to that?
For the nuclear industry in particular, we have three. The first one is the heavy dependence on documentation as the source of truth. So today in the nuclear industry, with the safety requirements in the nuclear industry, which are perhaps the most restrictive of any industry in the world, we have to be very careful that those requirements are met, and many times they're met only through documents. So now we have the consistency between the design and the documentation to manage. So a real challenge for all the companies in the nuclear industry. But more importantly than that, we also have the fact that today utilities are very segmented. What one utility wants is not necessarily compatible with what another utility wants. So finding a standardized way to do it is really, really a big challenge. And the third part is that the suppliers working across so many industries with so many different requirements that their costs are often not standardized either. They often look for this particular spec, it's this particular price. And we have to try to eliminate that, to try to lower that to a consistent viewpoint so that everyone in all the industry can capitalize, of course, but so we can take advantage of that to try to reduce the overall cost. Those are probably the three biggest challenges: is take up and acceptance from downstream, the link between documents and data, and then the final part is integration of all that data and information together in a synchronized way.
Okay, well, you're one of your partners is Bentley in this endeavor. Can you tell me a little bit about what attracted you or what differentiated Bentley in the eyes of Areva?
So one of the big focuses for the project that we're talking about this week is about interoperability. So the idea of interoperability is that I can exchange information without regard for which authoring tools it comes out of. Mm-hmm. So Bentley today is one of the most aggressive drivers of the solution of interoperability from the engineering and software providers. So they were a natural partner to look at because they're one of the most advanced, and for us they had the most open attitude towards helping us to see if it would work. That's one of the key things. You have to prove it in the nuclear industry. The second part was that within their portfolio of technologies, they have a system already that's well used in the nuclear industry in the United States as an operations and maintenance platform. And so as part of that, it was a logical fit for us to say, okay, if we can take the data from our design tools, push them into the Bentley tools, we can prove already that there's application for the nuclear industry. So they were a willing partner, and also they had technologies that already had a place in the portfolio.
Okay, well, that sounds really interesting, and especially the idea of taking your U.S. design work and managing it overseas for your upcoming projects. You have in the nuclear industry a really challenging kind of not just life cycle but supply chain as well. What do you think? How do you think you can deliver value in these projects in terms of controlling the schedule? That's really the 600-pound gorilla in the room, kind of, in terms of a nuclear project, because there's billions of dollars invested. Schedule is paramount. What can you do with a complex supply chain like that and a need at the same time to really control the schedule?
So we have three parts. We attack it three ways. It's not always a linear sequence of attacks, but in parallel. First one's around better configuration management. So in this particular case, we have to have all the inputs in a methodology. We understand the consistency of the information as we receive it. It basically means that during the design phase, the construction teams have to understand the information so that when it reaches construction, we don't reduce that time. We reduce the time, We reduce the time in order to enable us to not have to do a lot of retrofit design engineering because we couldn't build it that way. We also have the part where we have to work more closely with our suppliers to be sure that when we receive preliminary information along the life as they evolve their designs, particularly for specific equipment, that we're able to capture those design changes along the way. So the configuration management is a key important part. The second critical part is about anticipating in advance the orders. So in some cases, we have very long lead items in the nuclear industry. If you take the heavy components, some of them take 2 or 3 years to even get the materials in place to start the manufacturing. So we have to anticipate that. So part of that then comes back to standardization. It's part of what we talked about before. We have to try to find a way to eliminate the specifics as much as possible so I can order the same equipment every time to go into the plant regardless of where in the world it is. Not always so easy to do with the different regulatory environments, but it's something we have to look towards to say which materials can we use, and we can order them in advance with security, with the amount of confidence that we don't have to make design changes along the way. So a lot of it's around the configuration management of the design, but not only the design, but all the peripheral players that have to contribute to making sure the design is accomplished on time. You're entirely right, however, it's the biggest challenge we face is schedule.
Yeah, and it's a big challenge to get all those players on board with a program like this.
Sure, exactly right.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck, because we certainly could use some risk reduction in those kind of projects.
For sure.
This is Harry Forbes from ARC Advisory Group, and I've been talking here at the ARC Forum with Jim Newman, Manager of Engineering Tools for Areva. Thank you very much.